Singapore is an illusion of order. Australia is an evolving reality of how civilization must grow. And India, if it restores its course, can once again be the conscience of the world, the forgotten civilization. India doesn't need a transactional culture. It needs a livable civilization, one that grows again from the soil of empathy, humanity, and intellectual respect. This ideal isn't borrowed. It was India's heartbeat once, a Vedic civilization that valued truth, compassion, and intellect. A society that thrived not on fear, but on faith, not on command, but on conscience. But centuries of foreign rule reversed that rhythm. Dialogue turned into dogma, wisdom into survival, and the courage to think into the compulsion to imitate. Today, as India rises again, it stands before a mirror. One reflection shows Singapore, precise, efficient, yet mechanical. The other shows Australia, imperfect, but evolving toward empathy and balance, governance, control versus confidence. Singapore manages order, its governance flawless, its obedience complete, but efficiency without ownership breeds silence. Australia, in contrast, runs on confidence in people, in debate, in change itself. It accepts imperfection as the price of participation. Singapore manages order. Australia builds ownership. India must choose ownership, not obedience, as the foundation of its democracy. Singapore's success rests on fear of failure, of fines, of deviation. Australia's strength lies in empathy, the quiet moral understanding that decency, not dominance, defines a nation. The Rig Veda once said, harmony is born not of force, but of understanding. Fear creates citizens of law. Empathy creates citizens of conscience. And somewhere in this moral crossroad comes a reminder, welcome to Outrageously Yours, where disruption is not defiance, but remembrance, where we don't just question systems, we question the soul behind them. We disturb comfort zones not for noise, but for clarity, because civilization isn't built by command, it's built by conscience. Dependency versus dignity. Singapore farms data, Australia farms life. Singapore's prosperity depends on what it imports. Australia's thrives on what it cultivates, food, soil, and self-respect. Its abundance is both economic and ethical, a civilization in motion, not in maintenance. India must reclaim that same dignity. Agriculture, not as survival, but as stewardship. Education, instruction versus illumination. Singapore teaches what to think. Australia teaches how to think. But India once taught why to think. Education, there was illumination, not instruction, a quest for truth, not a race for ranks, and that light must return. Managed harmony versus moral balance. Singapore achieves peace through control. Australia achieves it through dialogue, often raw but real. India once balanced difference through Dharma, not regulation, but moral equilibrium. When Dharma weakens, control fills the void. When Dharma awakens, society governs itself, restoring the civilizational course. Singapore builds systems. Australia builds societies. India once built civilization, and it must do so again, not by imitation, but by invocation, bringing timeless values into modern life. Singapore's perfection is efficient but empty. Australia's imperfection is honest and evolving, but India's calling is higher still, to build progress that breathes, democracy that listens, and modernity that remembers its soul. The West teaches efficiency. Australia reminds us of humanity. But India, if it reawakens, can teach the world balance. Singapore shows how to manage life. Australia shows how to humanize it. India must show how to sanctify it, because civilization doesn't evolve by fear. It evolves by consciousness. And when that consciousness awakens again, India will not just rise as a power, it will rise as a presence. This is Outrageously Yours, where silence isn't absence, it's strategy. Keep tuning. We will be back with more disruptive thoughts.